Good afternoon, everybody, HOD, coach, representative of our sponsor SAA, the team, our supporters, the media. Thank you. We have concluded our AFCON journey, and we are here this afternoon to welcome our team back. What is our assessment of the AFCON? We all know that 24 countries participated there. They were not chosen from anywhere else. What is our assessment of the AFCON? I was saying 24 countries participated in this tournament, and they were not picked up anywhere. They went to qualify to go to Egypt, all of them, including our team, South Africa. They went all the way and qualified and went there. And I'm certain that each and every country that was participating there wanted to win the AFCON. I don't think there's any other country that went there to just add the numbers. So South Africa, we went there, we didn't go there to add numbers. And I think we exactly did that. We went there, we went out of the stage group, we went to the knockout stages. What did we do? We upset the host country. I think South Africans, the team must know that after that victory, every South African believed that we can lift up that trophy. We all believed after that great performance, defeating Egypt in front of their 80,000 supporters. We were all very confident that, Stuart, you will bring that trophy back. But we went to play the quarterfinal with Nigeria. We played very well. I think we did play very well, especially in the second half. We played quite well. Unfortunately, a mistake in football does happen. And human error, yes, once again in the last minute of the game, we gave away that draw that would have taken us to the next 30 minutes of the game. For probably we would have gone through to the semi-final. But the boys are here. We are very proud of you. You went there. You played your heart out. I know that there are a lot of talks about, but they didn't perform very well in the group stages. But we went through the group stages. There are many countries that did very well in the group stages, but they were home before us. We are only here. We have played almost 80% of the games in AFCON. So there's only 2 games that are left in Egypt for everyone to arch. So we can only welcome you boys and say you have taken the lead there. You went there, you showed the world that you can stand the test of time. You are determined. You can be able to lift that trophy, and we still believe that trophy will come to South Africa, and you are the boys that will bring that trophy to South Africa. I thank you.
Thank you very much to Madam Rea Didoba, the SAFA Vice President. And now we move on to Mr. Tebogo Tsimani, who's the Head of Operations at one of our proud sponsors, the South African Airways, just to also say a few words and welcome the team.
Thank you very much. From South African Airways, we welcome our gallant team. Thank you very much for making us believe once again. I thought that you played very well. We are very happy and that once again we can be rated up there as one of the best teams in the continent. As Ria has said, you did qualify, and you certainly went right up to the quarterfinals, and we haven't been to the quarterfinals for a very long time. You were equal to everyone else who played there, and we at South African Airways are very proud and happy to be your partners and your friends, and we look forward to more games in partnership with you. Thank you very much for making us very, very proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deborah from the South African Airways. And now we're going to ask Mr. Kwenza Ngwenya to also say a few words. He's the head of delegation. But before he does so, I must just pass on a message from the Minister of Sport, the Honorable Natim Tetwa, who's in London for the Netball World Cup, 2019 Netball World Cup. And he sends his well wishes to the team who would have loved to be here. And as we may or may not be aware, South Africa won their opening match yesterday, 76-45 against Trinidad and Tobago. And today they play against Fiji. Over to you, Mr. Ngwenya.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Mine is to thank the warm welcome we are getting from the VP, from the association after a long journey to AFCON, starting from the back, trying to qualify until we qualified and went there and played. It was not easy, as the VP has said. Maybe one who was far would think, will look at it differently, but if you was there, you will understand how difficult it was. You can look at even the margin of scores. Scores were 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, and I want to also touch on that issue of saying, hey, Bafana didn't do well. No, I differ, South Africans. Our team did very well. If you look at the scores, there are teams who lost 4-0, 4-1. But if you look at all our games, it's 1-0. The last game, it was 2-1. So that if you was not there, you can see from the results that no, the game was tough. Our boys were playing. Good South Africans, thank you for the support we got, and we are appealing for the South Africans to support this team. This team can do more, but we need your support. Thank you very much, and thank the association for all arrangements. Since we left, everything was arranged. Small mistakes, but 80% or 90% arrangement was superb. Thank you very much. And lastly, I want to thank the boys, thank the coaches for hard work since we started. Thank you very much.
And now to the leader of the troops, the head coach of Bafana, Mr. Stuart Baxter. Let me say thank you to Mr. Kwenza Ngwenya for those words. And we also have in our midst the man who's hiding behind me, the acting CEO of the South African Football Association, Mr. Russell Paul. And before Coach Stuart says anything, let me just inform those who are not aware. The captain, Tulani Hlachwayo, is not with us because he had to rush to hospital where his wife is expecting a child. So congratulations in advance to him. And let me say over to you, Coach Stuart.
Hi everybody, thanks for turning out. I'd like to thank all the supporters for turning out in this way. And when we started the journey, I think one of the questions I was asked was, you know, is this something for your CV or questions like that? And I said no. I said because one of the biggest motivations that we have is that we can offer, or we can try and offer, a major tournament to the supporters, because every country I've worked in, I've always seen the effect that has on the supporters. They live in front of the television screen, or they're waiting for the results. They They talk about it in cafes, and it galvanises the public, especially a good tournament. So what we're seeing today was one of the reasons that we put those miles in, that we went through a very tough campaign and finished off with a very, very tough game against Libya in Tunisia. And then if I'm going to comment on AFCON itself, I don't think we can be satisfied with the preparations. I don't think we can, and in our debriefs we're going to have to reflect that. We came there, and there was teams that played 3 and 4 games, and we were going in on the back of a half against Ghana. So it wasn't sufficient, and we all need to have a look at ourselves and say, well, why didn't we give the boys better? The first game, I thought, reflected that. I think we looked a little bit sluggish. I think our attacking play, we weren't in sync, and that's even at that it was still 1-0 to Ivory Coast, who should be one of the powerhouses. So we still felt we were in that game. So the second game against Namibia, and Namibia now have played 4 games, 4 friendly games, and we've just got a half against Ghana and then the game against Ivory Coast. I thought we did quite well against Namibia. Our attacking play was much better, and the result could have been bigger. So then we've got Morocco, knowing that probably a point is going to be enough for us, but we don't want to go out and play for a 0-0. But as the game develops, it goes from being an even game to the last 15-20 minutes played in our half of the field, and they played well because Morocco are a good team. And that game, I think, changed a little bit the perception of people. That changed when they get a ridiculous free kick and the referee misses a blatant foul on Camo, and we lose to a set play in the dying seconds, which is very disappointing for us, and it threw us into a little bit of a grey zone. We didn't know if we'd qualified or not. But that 10 seconds in that game and 10 seconds in the Ivory Coast game, and people's perceptions would change massively based on results, and we know we're in a result-driven industry. So the Morocco game changed the perception. Now, we knew that. We knew that we weren't far off there. If we'd have got that 0-0 and gone through on our own steam, then the perception would have been completely different. But now we knew we had Egypt, and we had them in their own backyard, and we knew that there was probably not a lot of people outside of our dressing room that gave us a chance. But we knew also that we are playing better and better. We're feeling that we are in sync now. So I think the game plan that we put forward, the players were superb. And people tell me that African players don't understand tactical patterns, then I think they don't know what they're talking about, because I said after the game to the boys that if I'd have put that game plan to a team of Englishmen or Germans or Brazilians, they would not have executed it better. And the word execution was probably the right word to use, because I thought we executed Egypt. I think that was the right word. They did exactly what we needed to do. They were confused and they didn't know what to do. And a player like Mo Salah, who's a world star, was very, very quiet. So that game, for me, it set a tone. And now then we had Nigeria, knowing that we'd beaten them, knowing that we got a handle on them, and we played in very similar fashion. And the only difference was that we weren't as clinical and we weren't as aggressive. And Gernot Rohr said after the game, he says, we knew that they would struggle to reproduce after 3 days the blistering pace that they showed against Egypt. And he was correct, because mentally it's really, really difficult to reproduce that quality. So there were little things like the aggression in our pressing that we didn't get 100% right, and the opening of the field on transition, so our players had space and we could move and we could expose them. But we still had better possession. We were still more competitive. We defended our goals well. So it was a game right up until the finish. And again, perception is an unbelievable thing, isn't it? If we'd held out and gone into extra time and it had been decided on penalties, everybody would have been, wow, what a game. And then the naysayers, oh well, you didn't go, you lost that one as well. So, you know, perception. Ask the Ghanaian coach. He's probably going to be without a job because the team he was playing against, their main player should have been sent off in the first minute, but he doesn't. He stays on and he scores 2 goals and Ghana go out. So perception is an unbelievable thing in our game. So we go out against Nigeria, and I think the players have had as good an AFCON as we have any right to demand from them. Are we coming back as heroes because we're victorious? No, we're not. We're not, because we didn't win it, and we should look at that and say, and we wanted better. But what we are doing is when we sat out a year and a half ago on this journey, we said we got certain goals, and one of the goals was to qualify for a major tournament moving forward, so that this group of players would gain that benefit for the long term. They did that in Libya. They made sure that they told the rest of Africa that we don't come just to make up the numbers. And I think we played equally with the best teams on the continent. And I think that in itself is to the credit of the players. So that progress is one of the targets we had. The other one was obviously for the supporters, but that was one of the targets we had. Now I think no one can take that away from the players. The result against Egypt is a diamond in South African football history. That will be talked about for a long time. The players that are on the field, they'll meet each other in 10 years and they'll say, without saying in their eyes, they'll say, do you remember that night in Cairo? Because if you're a South African and you're in Cairo that night, it's a special night. So the boys need to have a massive pat on the back, not as the great heroes, but as good professionals that have represented their country well. And as the HOD says, it was very difficult circumstances. The heat, the opponents, we played the best on the continent, and these lads equipped themselves excellently. And for that, they should get a massive pat on the back. Knowing that there's a lot of work to do, yes, everybody's aware of that. But I think for now, I think South Africa should embrace the squad that when it's come back and say, you have our support, go forward and make us proud once more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Coach Stuart Baxter. Dean, you'll be the last man standing. I'll move over to Bongani Zungu to also say a few words on behalf of the players. If you can just give us your experiences in Egypt and how things went there.
Good day, everyone. For me, I'm very happy and proud of what the team has accomplished in the tournament. As the coach said, we played against the powerhouse of African football. It was not easy games, and also not. We didn't have like the best of preparations before the tournament, but I'm very proud of the team, and I'm looking forward to the future, and I believe in the process, and I think the coach covered a lot of things, so personally I'm proud, and hopefully we'll move forward and try our best to qualify for more major tournaments and compete. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Bongani Zungu. And now Dean, the last man standing, as I said. What do you say?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm not going to touch on individual games, but what I will say is the nice thing to come out of that is if people on the continent didn't know us before, they certainly do now. Maybe before the Egypt game, they didn't know about Bongs, they didn't know about Tembi, they didn't know about Percy Tau, but they certainly do now, and the whole of Africa knows about Bafana, and I think that was something great that we can take from this AFCON, whether we want it or not. I think all of Africa knows about Bafana, and I think what's really important now is that this squad continues to progress and continues to go from strength to strength, because we can't rest on quarterfinals. We want to get better, we want to improve, we want to get to the semi-final next time and the final and win it. And that's got to be the aims going forward. I think for what we achieved at this tournament was really good under the circumstances. But as I said, the great thing that we can take as a group of players and the coach and his staff is that Africa knows Bafana, knows their players, and knows we're a force to be reckoned with, and that's something to be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dean, and thank you to the entire panel for the words they've given. Now, members of the media, it's your turn to pose questions. There won't be any one-on-ones because the coach has to dash, even the players. They're rushing off to various destinations. So if you can just ask those questions now. They will also be limited as well because they have to leave. So this is the time. If you can just say who you are, where you're from, and who the question is directed to. If there are no questions, I see a hand there at the back.
From ENCA. Coach, if you look at the performance overall of the team, I mean, from the game against Ivory Coast, would I be wrong to say the team was not embarrassed? The fact that we lost by a goal, 1 goal's margins, and then maybe taking positives out of, you've already touched on the game against Egypt. In terms of the quality of the players, are you satisfied moving forward?
I don't think you're ever satisfied 100%. I mean, I couldn't be anything but satisfied with the performance against Egypt because it was virtually flawless. But in every other game, we've felt that we can do better. There's always been an aspect to the game. I mean, if we take Ivory Coast, then we just weren't in sync with our front players. Our front players, we didn't get support up to them, and our possession was not opening the field up, and the pressing was not as good as it had been. So we knew we could do better, and we did better against Namibia. That was a nervous game because the players knew that everything rides on this game. We need a win, we need 3 points. And Namibia had played a really tight game against Morocco, and before that we knew that they'd beaten Ghana in their final warm-up game. So we knew that Namibia were going to be no mugs. So we went into that game. I thought our attacking play was better, but we were a little bit erratic in our play in that game. We weren't stable, and I think that reflected the nervousness. Morocco. I just thought that if we'd have been more on the front foot against Morocco, we allowed them to gain momentum, and it was an even game that suddenly they had momentum and they hit the crossbar, and then and we were sort of looking at the clock a little bit, thinking, well, 0-0's not bad, and so we came off that one, and a late goal. We weren't really happy with that, and then Egypt, and then Nigeria, and then you're looking at Nigeria saying, we could have penetrated more, and we could have opened the field more, and it could have looked like it did in the second half, the whole game, and I think we'd have broken them down in that case. So the players are aware of the fact that they've got stuff to work on, but I think when we ask the question, are you satisfied, I think that's got to be a bigger picture than just looking at one game and say, the attacking play in that game wasn't very good. I think you've got to look at the bigger picture, and you've got to say, like Dean said, the development of the squad, the development of the team, and the development of the reputation of South African football. When we started this AFCON, I'm reading, in fact I've not read, but someone's read it to me, to hell with Bafana, and let's boycott Bafana, and things like that. But I don't think that is founded. Before we came, just by the by, when we got on the plane in Addis Ababa, Ethiopian Airlines, they presented us with a cake. They made a big ceremony with TV and everything on the plane because they thought we'd been unbelievable. Jose Mourinho sent a text saying that this was a performance that you and the boys should be proud of. You know, Arsene Wenger sends me a text saying that this is an un-African performance, and he wasn't being derogatory in that in any way, shape or form. So, you know, out there they think we were fantastic, but still we've got to read let's boycott Bafana. I don't think that's founded, and it's not founded, but it's founded in the bitterness of a defeat. So you could isolate losing against Nigeria and say, you know, we lost to Nigeria, you can't change that, we lost, you know, and we can be like that, but then we'll never open up, and we'll never really get that development that we want. So am I satisfied? No, I'm not, and I don't want people to go away with the thing, oh, he's satisfied being a loser. It's not that, but I think we have to be satisfied with the progress and the reputation how it is now enhanced, because people now believe in Bafana. The two best games so far have been voted as Bafana Egypt and Bafana Nigeria. So even CAF are saying that, you know, this team plays good football, this team plays well. We can play better, and we can harness everything in South African football together with a solid structure. But that won't happen overnight. But I do think that we've built a good platform. As Dean said, we built a good platform, and we can go forward from there.
Next question. Yes, in yellow.
Charles from Daily Sun Sunday Sun. Coach, people are excited about the football that the team played and looking forward to the future. Are you hoping to be part of that future? Have you given it a thought? And also your thoughts on VAR. It assisted us to get an equalizer. It was introduced in the quarterfinal. What do you think about VAR in African football?
So the second one, what
VAR. What are your thoughts on VAR?
Let me take that one first. VAR, I believe will find a place. I think it will find a place. I think it'll be refined. The problem I've got with it is that it's still down to interpretation. They gave us a lesson in VAR before we went into the quarterfinals, and two of the clips that they showed us that was with VAR I disagreed with. One was a red card, and where a guy smacks him in the face, but he gets a yellow after VAR, and I said, well, VAR yes, but the interpretation of that information for me was wrong. So I still think you're going to get mistakes, but hopefully we'll get fewer and fewer mistakes. But I do think it will be refined, and it'll find a valuable place. For me, look, this has been a long campaign, and I'm looking at myself, and I'm going to go back to Sweden for a few days. I'm going to look at myself and say, do you really think, given the situation, that you can take this team forward? If I think no, then I'll step aside, and if I think yes, I'll come back and speak to my employer, and if they think the same, then I'll get on with the job. But I think it's one where everybody has to have a long, hard look at themselves, and there's a saying, if it ain't broken, don't break it. But I prefer to say, if it ain't broken, break it, put it back together, and you'll find something that you can do better. So I'll do that with myself, and I'll ask myself the question if I can be that person that will take it forward.
Yes, sir, in white, and then we'll come forward. There's the mic.
Temba Shabalala Joseph from Sport.
Well, you're watching SABC News. Thank you for joining us this Saturday afternoon. That, of course, was Bafana coach Stuart Baxter addressing...
Africans understand your style of coaching, looking at the Motiba inclusion that most people were not happy about, the exclusion of Lodge, which caused a lot of waves within the country while you're away.
Listen, football is about opinions. If you put together the 10 best coaches in the world and ask them to pick a world 11, none of them probably will be the same, because we've all got opinions about the game. If I criticise people for not having the same views as me, then I'm being a communist. I'll be a Stalinistic coach, and I understand that people will have those opinions. How those opinions are vented by maybe the media or by social media they should know that they have effects on the team. If you talk about the inclusion of Lebo Matiba, I've got no idea. I've got no idea how anybody can have any sort of complaints there. I've got no idea. I don't understand that whatsoever. I think he's a young striker, and we need to get. We don't have that many quality young strikers, and we need to give him that experience that will turn him into one of the top strikers. Now, you don't do that by giving him a game and then pulling him out and smashing his confidence and then putting him back in again and then taking him out. So I show faith in the players, and I tell them that I will take the responsibility and you take care of your performance. So that was that one. With Tembi Lorch, there's a massive difference playing for your national team or playing for your club team. Even if you're the best player in your club and you get the Player of the Year award, there is a massive difference. If you ask Tiger Woods what's the most difficult thing he's ever done, he'll say playing in the Ryder Cup. Why? Because he's representing his country. He's not just him. And I think every top player needs to be introduced carefully into the national team. Otherwise, you throw them in, you break them, then we go, no, he couldn't play, and they throw him away. Well, I don't do that. And so Tembi got a role when we were playing a way that I thought suited him, and he understood it, and he did well. The second game, he didn't do so well. He didn't do so well because it was a different game, and that's why we substituted him. Now, not because he's a bad player, he will continue to be an important part, but I think we have to make sure. Now, I've got that responsibility. The people who write on social media don't have that responsibility, and I know that. Theirs is a small angle, mine's a wide angle. Doesn't mean I think they're all stupid. It just means that it's football, and that passion and that what we see out there, that's why we're in the game. And for the nights like Egypt, that's why we're in the game, because it's emotion, it's passion, it's opinion. And so I don't think people are stupid for not having the same opinion as me. But it's okay when I explain my opinion. I don't expect them to say, yeah, we agree with you now. But maybe they'll say, yeah, we hear what you're saying, but we still don't agree with you. That's okay. Yeah.
Next question.
Sapang from Kiko. Hello. Sapang from Kiko. To the two players, you've heard what the coach has to say about whether he could stay or could go. Just, do you want him to stay? If so, why?
If one of them says no, I want him to go and I stay, they can kiss their career goodbye.
I've worked with a coach for a long time, and I know how meticulous he is in his planning, and he probably doesn't take enough credit for that Egypt performance because maybe not everyone quite understands how he tactically set us up and how hard we worked on the training ground. To really cause them problems, not just when we had the ball, but when we didn't have the ball. And so the way I see it is we've been together for I think 2 years with the coach as the national team. Yes, we were disappointed to miss out on the World Cup, but we qualified beating Nigeria away. Another performance that was tactically superb from us when we had only worked with the coach for a week or two. We went to Libya where we played a brand new formation. We worked in a week. Again, I don't think enough was discussed about, yes, the players got the credit on the pitch, but tactically we were set up in a way to completely nullify any threat that they had, something that was probably overlooked, and the players took a lot of the credit. And then we go to the AFCON, and under whatever circumstances we had, we still managed to find a way to have a solid tournament and be reckoned with the best on the continent now in the final 8 of a major tournament. So I think probably, well, definitely not enough credit is given to the coach in the way he set us up, in the way he's run this team. And I think I can speak comfortably on behalf of the boys who will honestly say it's been an absolute honour and a privilege to work with the coach and his technical team, and we of course hope that he remains as a national team coach.
for me, you know, as a South African football player, I think, you know, to have a coach that understands our psychological psychology, or like our mentality as players, you know, is a blessing. You know, he understands us as players, he understands South African football, and that has helped a lot of the players, you know, and which is something that a lot of people don't know, because a lot happens in camp, and I would like him to stay. We're gonna go to Sweden and decide that. Yeah, but I would like him to stay, and hopefully we'll carry on and grow as players and do well.
Coach, Coach, I just want to follow up on Charles' question, maybe ask it differently regarding your future. Do you think over the last while you really have done enough to you know, for the powers that be to allow you to continue? And also, you know, in a scale of 10, can you rate the team's performance at AFCON? And to the gentleman on the second from right, Safa, you as Safa, do you want him to continue? Surely you know by now.
Look, if I'm rating the team's performance, I'm a coach, not a schoolmaster, really. I think you're asking questions that it's one of these, what was his mandate? What is his mandate? It's a question that's loaded to try to find an angle somewhere. Look, I've got no problems leaving this job. You don't confuse me with a coach that's desperate for a job. I've turned down a job this week with another African nation. I've turned down a job last week with the Saudis. I've turned down jobs in Asia, and I've turned down jobs in South Africa to stay with this team. I'm not a desperate coach. I stay and do the job because I want to do it. I think I can take the team forward. The second I don't, I'll leave. Now, don't confuse me with that desperate coach that's, oh, please don't sack me. Please don't sack me. I'll do this job because I thought that this national team needed direction, and I think I've given it the first stage of that direction. To rate my own job, I never do that, because that's being pompous and blown up, and I don't ever do that. But if I was to stay in the job, it would be because I think I can do the job properly. And I have to say, without sounding arrogant, not 1% of my self-esteem would come from questions like that, asking me to give a mark to my own performance. And people that sit there saying, how can you understand South Africans when you've not been through what we've been through? I understand that people want a South African in a perfect world leading the South African national team. I understand that. That should not drive away coaches that can enhance the national team. It drove away Carlos Queiroz, and I don't think we got better after that. It drove me away the first time, and I don't think that South African football improved rapidly. Even your own people like Pitso was driven away back into club football, and Pitso's done very nicely, thank you very much, and the national team still had the same problems. So I think we have to get away from this sort of thinking of, let's see how good you think you are first. I think you've got to look at a programme and you've got to say, is the progress being made? If progress is being made, then some things are being done correctly, and then let's look at those things instead of looking at everything. Still, after I think a very good, and I'm saying other people also think a very good, solid AFCON, still the questions that you're asking is if I'm going to get a sack from my employer, and if the players think I'm good enough to be taking the national team. I think that's unnecessary, and I think it's counterproductive, I have to say. No, you've got more than a right to your opinion, but I think you've got to know that basic premise of asking negative questions, it may sell a few newspapers, but it's certainly not productive.
Or should we move on? Okay, the last.
Two questions. I thought you forgot. No, on your question, maybe let me start by saying, in SAFA, we have Vision 22. One of our aims is to see our teams qualifying for big tournaments, which has happened. Secondly, coming direct to your question, it will be an insult if I can tell you now what is our decision as an association, because we have to look at many things. Like as I've said, Bafana last qualified in 2015. Now Bafana has qualified. In 2015, Bafana lost and went out on the group stage. Today, Bafana is from AFCON. Bafana reached quarterfinals. So we'll go back as SAFA and look at many things before we decide, and we talk to the coach. I can't now say coach must continue or coach must not. As an employer, we have to look at many things, not just to come with an answer from your question. Thank you.
The last two questions here.
Coach Kulisone Marimira from Vision View Sports Radio. Your first day with the media at Stein City, I think it was straight after the COSAFA week, the COSAFA loss in the dying minutes, and you were a bit worried about the South African players' mentality towards the end of the game, to sort of like close the game and not concede late goals as it did against Botswana that weekend. It has happened now again. It happened twice at the AFCON, and it was crucial goals which had South Africa not conceded, maybe the tournament would have turned out differently. If or when you stay on as Bafana coach, how do you fix that? Because it can't keep happening.
I think what I said at that time was that critical phases of the game are the beginning of the game, the end of the game, and in the beginning of the halves. After a goal's been scored, in effect, every time the game is stopped, becomes a set play, for example. If there's a delay, or if you're moving into a time when concentration could dip, end of the game is because of fatigue. And so if you get a set play in a critical phase, it's dangerous. So both of those are set plays. Botswana was set plays. Now, that is something we must highlight, because if you take 75% of all goals scored in the last World Cup through the group stages, up until the group stages, it was 84% from critical phases. Set plays in that time of the game, or transitions that time of the game. So 84% of all goals. So if you can control that, you've got an 84% chance of winning the game. So it isn't just a South African issue. This is a documented time where if you're not on your toes. Now, what I would like to say is that we need to program our players so that they are on their toes. We need to be good in those critical phases, because if we are, then the good football that we can play in between will be valuable to us. If we're not, we could play the good football in between and the other team beats us 3-0. If you go back a little bit, you'll probably remember that we could play. My very first game that I saw, Pitso was the coach. It was Super Sport when I came to South Africa. They played Esperance in a I think it was a CAF game in Pretoria at Loftus. They played them off the field and lost 2-0 because Esperance wheeled their two big centre backs up at two corners and they scored. And Sundowns were by far Super Sport were by far the better team. And I think that was a little bit par for the course. that we could play the best football, but we'd still lose the game because we didn't control the critical phases. And I think that's improved, but I flagged it up at that time, and it has bitten us a little bit here at this tournament. So it's certainly something we've got to address.
Last question here.
Maskepa Matsavani from Power FM. Well, we've listened, I think, from Safa saying that they are proud and happy, and Dean has mentioned how meticulous you are and how much you don't take a whole lot of credit for the work that gets done. But I think for us to be here at this point while people are still playing means that something somewhere didn't go right. And when we have lost 2 matches and scored 1 goal in the group stages, says something also wasn't right. Is there going to be a point where you are going to look at yourself and say, maybe this is the responsibility I can take for 1, 2, 3. Maybe this is where I think 1, 2, 3 should have done better for us to probably go further. And I'm hoping, as you said about negativity, this is not negative.
I don't know how I can take that as being anything but negative, but okay, I'll answer it. I think people that know me know that I'm probably my own biggest critic. If I look at myself, I take responsibility, I take ownership for what I do. I'm not sure everybody does that, but I take ownership for everything that I do, and I look at my own performance. Do you want to look at me from under the cap?
I'm looking at you.
Yeah. And I take ownership of what I do. Yeah. So in the games, if there's something that is on my back, I'll take it. I will tell the players straight away, that was me. That wasn't you, that was me. So if you're looking at the games, and if you want to say, well, we only scored 1 goal. If that was a tactical thing, if that was an instruction from me that went wrong, I'll take that. At this point in time, I think you're completely way off the mark by even going down that route. That's what I would say. You could choose to go down the route that Jose Mourinho went down, or Arsene Wenger went down, but they're football people, they're not media people. You could choose that. Now we have this feeling in South Africa that it's better to be negative than it is to be positive. Now I've got a feeling that no matter how long I work here, that's not going to change. And that's what I'm thinking now. I'm thinking, is there any point? Is there any point? We've just come back, and the final question is going to be, should I be sacked?
No, that's not what I said.
No, you didn't say that. Should I be sacked? Or when are you going to take responsibility for the things that go wrong? So I take responsibility for the things that go wrong. Do you guys take responsibility for that sort of comment? Because the environment the players have to play in, they fear. You talk about playing, express yourself. The environment that they know is full of negativity. So do you guys take any responsibility for that? Do you take any responsibility for that?
Can I?
No.
What is that?
No, it's not a debate. It's just a rhetorical question.
What? Okay.
So I would say let's look, if we're in the business of looking at ourselves, let's look at ourselves. Let's look at questions. It's like me walking into an operating theatre and telling the brain surgeon, I think you should do that, that and that. Do you take responsibility for that if this fella dies? And I walk away then having no responsibility for anything. Now you can say that, you can ask, because you're a journalist, you can ask me, do you take responsibility? I say yes. But that won't be the first time you've asked that question. It won't be the first time you've asked me a negative question. It won't be the first time or last time that you'll question what I'm doing. But I'll just say, from what basis do you do that? From your years of coaching or management, or how do you evaluate? How do you evaluate what we did against? Do you want to tell me, if you give him the mic, do you want to tell me what we did against Egypt that was good? Do you want to tell me how we pressed? Do you want to tell me how we played on transition, where the players should have been and where they were? How we defended our box? you want to tell me about the supporting defender and our marking distances? The distances between the lines. Do you want to tell me about that? On your show once you asked me about tactics. And I was going to embarrass you and say, can you tell me what tactics are?
So you think we don't know?
I'm asking you. I'm asking you.
I'm just saying.
No. Well, I'll tell you what. If you explain to me, then I'll say, well, because the thing is, Arsene Wenger told me once. He says, if I call you and say I think you had a nightmare, he says I expect you to be upset, but I don't expect you to be upset if someone that knows nothing about football out on the street. So what I'm saying to you is that make sure if you're asking me to be accountable yourself. Ask questions that you know you can back up, because you've got to say to me, do you take responsibility for that? Yes, I do. Every time. And I can take responsibility from a basis of knowledge. What you're saying is, I don't need to take any responsibility, and I can ask whatever questions I like because I'm a journalist. No, well, I mean, that's your opinion. I'm entitled to my opinion. This is a game of opinions, isn't it? So I'm entitled to my opinion.
Easy. Yeah, Coach. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our press conference. The next Bafana fixture will be determined by the draw that's coming in about 2 weeks' time for the AFCON 2021 tournament, as well as the World Cup 2022 in Qatar. Well, have yourselves a lovely day. Coach, players, go get some rest, and we'll see you soon. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Have a lovely day.
Thank you. Thanks.